Somewhere. Out of time. Here he comes.
That would be nice. Not anybody else. Everybody just texts. Well, Christina did. I can just set it down here.
Keep telling Parker we're gonna get a gavel.
What time does the 4 o'clock train run?
I'm sorry?
What time does the 4 o'clock train run?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
That's like who's buried in Grant's tomb. We always used to say that.
If nobody wanted any room to go for $100, who's buried in Greenwich too?
Look at that on that picture. Every doctor I would take him to, they say it was a lot of risk.
He's taking him up in the woodshed to get something to eat.
I think so. I was just asked my wife. She said she would like to go. I got to go for radiation. 7.
Starting a farm in Wonderland.
They're going to time. So I'm going to ask them,
Ollie. Every farm needs cats.
Put a horn on the water tail.
Kittens.
Okay. All right,
when you go, that's all right, Journal, we'll wait. They said that I drive myself up there every day, you know, 5 days a week.
Okay.
Joe, we're all waiting on you, my friend.
You're waiting on a good man.
John, will you say a word of prayer for us?
Absolutely. Please pray with me. Dear Lord, we thank you for this afternoon that you've given us. Lord, we thank you for this organization that you blessed us with. Lord, we ask that the decisions we make tonight are pleasing in your sight. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the April 8th meeting? Are there any corrections or additions?
I make a motion that the minutes be received as.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I have tons of pens. What?
That's why I put
The
it in.
reporter always has pens because they steal them.
Okay, John, we have the divisional reports.
Okay, I'm going to let Mr. Wood kind of hit some of the highlights of some of the different departments.
In the administrative department, the management team met with the doctor and went over some coping with stress and that type of thing. And they had a administrative professionals day, and they were served lunch to show appreciation for the administrative team. And we had some lobbyists come this month and just discuss some federal affairs and that kind of thing. And then we met several times with the rate analyst, and we'll, I think, hear from them a little bit later here. In the electric department, they're continuing to tree trimming on East Main. They've had a number of underground services installed. They're still working with the Tantalus and outage management system, and a couple of guys went to the Tantalus conference. We had some poles replaced due to age and condition, and then we had a number of poles that were hit by vehicles and windstorms. And then Rock Hill had a pretty significant storm, and we sent 4 guys up there with several trucks, and they were up there for 4 days trying to help Rock Hill restore some of their power. And transformer and all that we've been talking about at the courthouse, it's been reinstalled after commissioned, and the power's been connected up to the new bank building. And some of the regulators that was mentioned in previous months that were being repaired and reworked, there was several of those that was leaking. They had to go back and rework those. And then periodically we'll test all the trucks and everything in the electric department to make sure that they're still insulated and for the guys. And still working on the SCADA system a little bit, and we did receive final approval on the electric grant that we had worked on with Santee Cooper. And the electric department participated in Earth Day with the citywide cleanup. Natural gas department, they're continuing to install taps, and that used to be more of a fall and winter kind of thing, but it seems like it goes year round now. And we had a valve that was found in a manhole that hasn't been serviced in a while on Hampton Street at Olive Lawton, and the fire department assisted us in lowering a man down in that hole. It was about 20 to 25 feet deep, and they monitored the air and all that while he was down there greasing and servicing that valve, and had to make a special wrench so that the guys up at the top of the hole could turn the valve when he needed it turned to exercise it. So we're hoping that that is going to take care of that leak in that area that we think might have been on that valve, but time will tell on that. They did do about a 1,500-foot expansion on the gas line that was on Pitts Road in Hickory Tavern, and we tested all the regulators and relief valves in the regulator stations. And they also attended a hot tapping class that was offered by the Carolina Public Gas Association, and that was at Fort Hill Natural Gas in Easley. In the water and sewer department, they fixed some leaks, made some new taps in both water and sewer, and 2 water taps and 2 sewer taps needed to be replaced. And they installed some irrigation meters. The air vent on the raw water line is in front of Gibson Grove. It was moved to help out with the density of the utilities in that area, their driveways up there. And they also finished the water service line inventory that we've mentioned over the last few months they've been working on. And they did not find any lead service lines on the system anywhere. We weren't expecting to find any, and now we have that documented that there was none found. And as you may have seen around town, hydrant flushing has started and will continue on through most of May. It should finish up this month. Does anybody have any questions on any of that?
The Department of Energy electric grant, what is that?
We applied for a grant through Santee Cooper. They are the authority in South Carolina that requests the grants, and they get approved for it, and then we get awarded as a sub-awardee. There was 3 municipals and I think 14 co-ops maybe that got some money through that. Ours is, it was about over $1 million, but we have to do a third match on it. So
What is the,
We're going to do a pole inspection. What I actually wanted to apply for was a pole replacement. But to know how many poles need to be replaced, we need to do a pole inspection. So I requested money for that. There's some cutout switches that'll be put in at various places in town. And also to help with tree trimming in some of the areas it's hard for us to get. And we wanted to expedite that tree trimming some. So that was the three things we asked for money for.
It's all about resiliency and trying to make the system more robust.
no outages?
That's right. No outages. That's the goal.
Okay, public forum. I don't believe we have anybody from the public tonight. So we will move on to the March financials.
Okay, March 31, financials, we'll start on page 6, look at the P&L. My March 2024 was a little better across the board than this time a year ago. We got a net gain of $235,489. Electric division, a loss of $45,925. Gas, a net gain of $229,096. Water, $32,738. Sewer division, $19,580. Everyone other than sewer was in a better position than we were this time of year ago for March. Our capital budget begins on page 11. Not a lot of activity the first quarter of the year. Some small capital projects have taken place at the top quadrant of that page there. The big things are ongoing capital projects at the bottom of that page. See the things such as the Gibson Grove and the SKIP grant. All that's coming, but that SKIP grant we probably won't bid the first item until June or July. So not a ton of activity. Our O&M G&A totals are on page 14. I did have to actually reallocate our natural gas budget for the rest of the year, and it made it kind of trued it up so we get a better picture through the rest of the year since the gas purchases are seasonal. The month of March, we were $84,000 under budget at 3.4%. Year to date, we're $376,000 under budget, or 4.6%. So very, very good managing our budget so far for the first quarter. I'll be glad to answer any questions about the March financial statement.
Anybody have any questions about the checks over 1,000? If not, do I have a motion to approve the March financials?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Okay. We have a special guest with us, Calvin Whitmire. You have the floor.
All right, now approach. First of all, I want to thank y'all for allowing me an opportunity to come before you all. Again, my name is Calvin Whitmire. I've been the executive director, and I am the executive director and founder of Bridging the Gap. This is our 10th year. I wanted to give you some updates before I start going into what it really is. Over the last 10 years, we've serviced about 3,200 students as well as family. think is significant that's been associated with our program, of which about 48 have attended college or are attending college, of which the 3,200 people that we've serviced, 485 are productive citizens in the workforce. We track this because we think it's important that you all know when y'all support us, what you're getting back. And I just feel like when our kids win, everybody wins. And when our family win, everyone's win. The kids have been involved in learning how to use the land. We've developed a mini farm on our campus. We just recently installed a greenhouse so we can grow vegetables year-round. So the kids are learning how to use the land, and then we also have an etiquette house on our campus where kids learn how to cook after they grow the food. So we try to catch them on the front end and also helping kids develop self-esteem early on. Some of these kids are dealing with ADHD, ADD, autism, and we've seen some growth in these kids by using farming. Just a simple format of farming. They learn good work ethics. These are some of the things that we've been involved over the last 10 years. We have I think, one of the best staffs in the country. 100% volunteer. It's almost unheard of. And we maintain our core. Most of these people are retirees, and they've been with us 10 years. And I think that's significant because you keep that cohesiveness going and that continuity growing and going. CPW, y'all have been a great help to our program. Y'all supported us when I asked for support, particularly our kickball festival, which we have every year. And this year we was able to help two families one family being the Floyd family that was burned out back in January, and another family being the Ryan family, Ryan Anderson, the kid that was mauled by a pack of dogs. So we was able to help them financially through our kickball festival. Also, Coach Staley was able to send a signed autograph ball to Mr. Anderson, the 11-year-old. I thought that was great on her part. You know, she couldn't be here. She's a rock star now, so but she did. She able to show that she cared. That's for sure. Right now, some of my main concern for the Washington Heights community, that includes Lurie Street, Park Place, Stewart, Truman, Miller, and those are the main arteries. And one of my biggest concern right now is safety. I had a conversation with Mr. Young as well as the city about upgrading our lighting to LEDs. I'm a firm believer that if you shed light on something, it seems to dissipate or you have a chance to approach it. Our kids, I have to be honest with you right now, we got a few trap houses in our community, that being drug houses. Yeah, they are there. And I believe in what I'm doing. I tell them that. I tell the dealers that. I believe in what I'm doing. I'm willing to die for it. Just simple. I'm on a treadmill, they're on a treadmill. They're either going to get off or I'm going to die on the treadmill. Simple. I keep things simple. That's how serious it is for me. So, but I try to also implement programs that will bring a community together. We was awarded $50,000 for some bicycles. They're high-end bicycles. We're trying to develop a trail on the backside of Sanders football field, old Sanders football field that was shut down when we integrated. But we've been using it our kids was able to help restore it along with other community workers, was able to restore that field. But behind there, there's a track. It's between the ball field and the shooting range. And I would like to put together a cycling trail. It's going to probably cost a tune of about $200,000, but I believe with reaching out to you all as well as Prisma, as well as the high school, they have to be vested. These kids deserve a safe place to play. It's not a whole lot of investment been done on that side of town. I don't typically put one against the other. I worry about the whole county, all students, not just our students, not just black students. Our program is comprised of, it's very diverse, Hispanic as well as whites and black. We feel like if we build it right, they come. And we have put together a program collectively that has impacted many kids. As I stated earlier, some of the kids that have gone on to be productive and are being productive now. But just to bring it all back in perspective, I was talking about LED lighting. I don't know, I believe that's a small feat, in my opinion, if you can bring safety to a community. I have cameras set up that I personally did it. And that I'm known as a person that they don't know where my cameras are. Do I feel like sometimes I gotta watch over my shoulders sometimes, but it's okay. It's okay. I know what I was up against when I started this in motion. I knew I was gonna get confronted with some opposition, but I don't back down. I don't run and hide. I'm not hard to find. And I tell them that. I don't wanna be antagonistic, but I don't run. And so I want kids to be able to have a safe place to play, safe place to be able to reside. And I think cycling, as well as farming, it gives kids an opportunity to develop. And I look at it this way, and the studies have been proven. If you got kids that's active, they're more productive. They're more productive. So my request, again, the study, I've talked to Dr. Bree down at PC, and he's trying to help having put together a cycling program there too. And we walked that trail a couple of months ago. I think it's an opportunity for us to develop a trail on the backside. It's not practical to think parents are going to take their kids all the way out to Swamp Rabbit Trail. It's not practical.
Yes.
It's not. I'm just going to be honest with you. Great idea, great concept. They're not going to swing the trail back this way. So I just think collectively, if we can brainstorm, come up with a format. I know that you all invest in the communities. And there has to be a certain percentage that has to be reinvested back in the community. And I'm for one. I'm a big proponent of people put some skin in the game. Not only just you all, but my community. I want them to put skin in the game too, collectively. But my request tonight is trying to put together a bike trail on the backside of that property and getting the school district involved again, as well as Prisma Health. And I'm also going to reach out to Michelin because there's a possibility they can get involved. But I want y'all to know where I'm headed with this. If you can create 1 mile to 2 miles of kids just riding safely, they can't ride safely on the streets. They can't. And I got these bikes, and I'm like, I got to find a way. I went to a workshop about 7 months ago, out in California, and I was able to be trained on how to teach kids how to ride a bike safely, do pre-trip. So this study was certified. So this is real. That was a lot of investment made in this program. So I'm at this point, and sometimes it gets a little frustrating, but we're going to stay the course. We're going to stay the course. So that's one of my requests, as well as the LED lighting being replaced in our community, the high visible ones. I got to see what's coming. We got to see what's coming. If you don't live there, it's easy to resolve to the fact that, hey, it's no big deal, but it is a big deal. Something is minor, I guess, in a sense, as lighting makes a big difference in that community. And I'm asking if there had to be a vote. I know Mr. Young, some things he can do on his own, but sometimes it takes the board to get things done. I would like to see all those lights changed out to the highest level that we can. I know the city is going to point to you, you're going to point to the city, but at the end of the day, I got kids, I want them to feel safe. I just want them to feel safe. And I know, and I've seen it work. When y'all came out and changed, when CPW came out and implemented it about a couple of years ago, I could see that some of the traffic stopped. Some of the high level of traffic, the unwanted traffic stopped. And another thing that's going on in our community is DOT have committed money to pave all those streets in our community. I've been jumping up and down. They just squeaky wheel get the oil. Well, they made a commitment to pave all the streets in our community. That's huge, because you're talking about a community that hadn't been touched in 60 years. 60. So, so taxation without representation. I don't want to preach to the choir, but that's the bottom line. And right now, I want to work with people, not against people. And sometimes it's going to be some uncomfortable conversations. But I'm not trying to run a popularity contest, because if that would be the case, I'd be in a pageant. So I'm not trying to do that. It's just not going to happen. I know I'm going to step on some toes. I know that too, but for the right reason. For my kids. And the kids that have been through our program will tell you that I've been fair with them. I love them no matter what color they are, whether they poor or white, poor or blacks, rich, it didn't matter. I try to pour into them. So after all is said and done, there's one more request. I've given you two. I'm going to give you a third one. The shooting range in our community. There has to be a way we can kill the sound. That may not only be, it's going to take a collective effort. When kids are in class, flinching, that's a problem. That's a problem. It's got to be a way that you can silence or kill some of that sound. I was told by the prior chief that just resigned, there's a contraption or a device that you can implement that will shoot the sound up in the air, so by the time it leaves the chute, is almost silence. I'm hoping that we can come up with a plan. And I'm not over-exaggerating. I'm in the schools, and I've worked at Sanders, and I've seen kids flinch when they hear these. They have to practice. We want the best for us. They have to practice. But there's got to be a way that we can come up with a device. I don't know. It has to be a study done, some research done that the kids should not have to sit in classroom and be exposed to that. I just got to believe that we're better than that. I believe we can come up with a device. There is one out there that can kill some of the sound. I'm not knowledgeable. Perhaps we can do a study on it. Those are the three requests, just to refresh. LED lighting in our community. That really needs to happen. It really needs to happen. Who's going to share the cost? I don't know. All I know, this has to happen. My life is put on the line. I know that. It's been sent to me. It's okay. It's okay. But I want to see them coming. That's how important it is. It really is. And then again, the bike trail. I'll have more definitive information when I return real soon about the layout and the stakeholders. I just want you all to be willing to be part of it also. Impacting the community that was once probably one of the most thriving African-American community in the upstate. But when property fall in the wrong people's hands, you know what happens. Slum lords take over, they make their $600-700, they don't live there. But it affects the people that's been there, so. And thirdly was, we did the bike, we talked about the bike trail. Certainly want to bring back some more information on that and be more definitive. But that sound barrier for the shooting range, that has to be a priority. It does. And you can do your study, do your research and ask the principals in that area. But here it goes off. And I'm surprised it never been brought up before. I'm totally surprised that it never been brought up because it impede education. So those are the three areas of my request this evening. And I want to end on this. I want to salute CPW workers. A few weeks ago, maybe about a month, less than a month ago, power went out in our community. Well, I'm on the machine. It's very important that I be on the machine on a nightly basis. Your workers work diligently. After a pole was just caved in, people sprying through the community, driving 80, 90 miles an hour. Hit that pole and split it in half. They was able to walk away or run away. But we was out, the crew did an excellent job in getting the lights back on. And I was able to be on my machine. It was in the wee hours of the morning, but you got it done. So, as a pro fraud, it won't praise his own pun. I thank God for CPW. But can we do more? You heard some of my requests. It's not about me. It's not for me. It's about our children. And I'm committed. I'm just not making a commitment. Actually, I'm making a sacrifice. But I don't mind. I don't mind. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to come here. I don't like to take up too much of anybody's time because I value people's time and mine. But I want to thank y'all for allowing me to come before you all. Certainly, please take these three things under strong consideration. I'll have more definitive information back on that bike trail and work in conjunction with the school district because they already been notified of what the intent is as far as the bike trail. And that's all I have for you all this evening. I want to thank y'all again for allowing me to come.
Where will the bike trail? It'll be there at the football field?
Behind it.
Behind it?
Behind the football field.
Go down through the woods?
Yes, it's a road back there already. Yeah, and I feel...
The school district owns?
The school district owns. That's why I had to reach out to them first. And I wanted to try to get their buy-in, and there's positive talk. But I know that CPW will play a huge role. I know financially, it is an investment. It is. It's probably a tune about $200,000. It is. But I look at longevity down the road. Look at what's been spent in that community. And I think it's just not just that community. I think more people will come. More people will come outside that community. And again, $40,000, $50,000 for bikes, that's significant. They're being housed right there on our campus right now, but I can't put them on the road. We ride around on the property, but it's not enough. It's just not enough. It's really not. So that's why I'm here to appeal to you all for the assistance.
Have a board of directors
Sir?
Have a board of directors on the organization.
Do we have a board of directors?
Oh, yes.
Well, yeah, we have a board of directors. We're a nonprofit 501c3, bona fide, certified through the state and federal government. Again, this is our 10th year. We're going to do a huge celebration in September. We're going to have a community day. Again, I believe in embracing. I believe in trying to be part of the solution and not the problem. If I bring you a problem, I want to have a solution to go with it. That's how I try to do things. Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for all that you do for the
Yes,
community.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, next up is our comprehensive rate analysis presentation.
Okay, we've got Mr. Dan Castbaum. I don't know where he is coming from, but it's going to be on the screen here.
Good evening. I'm coming from Michigan, Lower Michigan.
Turn you up a little bit.
Are you able to hear me okay?
Good, yeah.
All right. All right, well, I want to see, I'm sharing my screen, and it should be a oh, you're seeing that. Here we go. Usually that doesn't come through. All right, are you able to see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, well,
Dan, can hang on just a second. Let me just kind of give them a little bit of a, did everybody get a copy of this with your package and get a chance to look through it? Dan and his team have been looking over a lot of financial information from the CPW for months now. So this is kind of the culmination of a lot of work on Blake and his folks, as well as the folks of UFS, to try to put together their best analysis on looking at our current rates and what their projections are and what they're recommending for us in the future. So, Dan, I just wanted to kind of say that before you got started there, buddy.
wonderful, thank you. Yes, so we're going to talk about the 4 utilities: electric, gas, water, and wastewater. And we're going to look at some financial projections that go out for the next 5 years that will help show us where each utility is headed with rates that you currently have in place. And we'll look at where we're going without rate adjustments, and then where we would like to see you make some adjustments in the future to maintain a healthy position of the utility. And to do that, we'll be taking a look at some key financial targets that we utilize to measure a utility's health. So we'll talk about that here in an upcoming slide. And then finally, at the end, I believe everyone has been provided as well with a packet of example rate designs. But those rate designs, we're utilizing the results of what I'm going to walk through to then adjust your current rate structures towards cost of service recommendations. And so to start with doing a financial projection, we need to start with some assumptions going forward. So with all the utilities, we have an inflationary adjustment on our expenses. And this would be less your like in the electric department, you have power supply provided. That's going to be at a different rate. But general inflation of 3.5% each year. Our customer growth, which would be new customers coming on with new sales, we have a 1% increase in each utility. And then any cash we have related to the utilities, we have that cash generates 4% investment income is what we're assuming in each of the next 5 years. I talked about power supply. You see we have it set a little bit higher in 2024 at 2.3%, followed by 0.5% thereafter. This is something that as that adjusts up or down, it'll be captured in your adjustment mechanism for electric customers. The same with purchased gas. We have that at a 0.5% increase in cost each year, but that will be recovered through the adjustment mechanism as well. And purchased water, we have at a 0.5% increase each year. So that's some of the assumptions. The next big one, this assumption, we have it separated by utility, is for capital programs. In general, the capital programs are a little bit heavier in the first 3 years, but you'll see for gas, we're at $3 million for the first 3 years, followed by $1 million in the outer 2. Water is pretty much $4 million in the first 3 years and 1.5 around there in the outer 2. Wastewater is about 600 each year, and electric is a little heavier in year 1 at about 4 million, and then followed by about 3 million, coming down to just around $1 million in the outer year there. Now, electric, being that we have a little higher capital program there, we're looking to recommend that there's some of that capital be bonded for to support those capital programs. And you can see we're looking at a $3.5 million bond issue in each 2025 and 2027 to help support the cash flow through the electric utility. The assumption there is that bond would be issued for a period of 30 years at 5%. So those are our assumptions. So the next thing is, what do we use for measuring the health of a utility, the financial health? And we do these studies throughout the U.S., many different public utilities. And we look at, the first thing is debt coverage ratio. Now, you are debt-free in most of your utilities. But when we have debt issued, they're typically a revenue bond that requires you to meet this debt coverage ratio. And what this is, the requirement will be about they call a 1.1 to 1.25 debt coverage ratio. And that is a ratio between the cash generated by the utility in a year to the debt service payment, the principal and interest payment. So if you have a debt coverage ratio of 1.25, that means you can pay with the cash generated from the utility your debt service payment 1.25 times in that year. Now, that 1 to 1.25 is a minimum that they set. We like to have a safety factor of about 0.2 on that. So we look at a minimum of 1.4 is where we want to have that debt coverage ratio. So we'll see that in the upcoming slides when we look at like the electric, where we're adding debt, and the gas utility actually is coming close to being debt free. So minimum cash, what should each utility have as a minimum level of cash to really pay your bills? So there's 4 different categories that we look at for minimum cash. The first is your O&M. And what we're trying to do here is we have a 45-day working capital lag between, and this is the timing between when you incur an expense and the time it takes to then recover the revenue to pay that expense. So we're using an average of 45 days, and that would be to your O&M. Now, the other thing we need cash for is you have a capital program. And as capital programs are coming to completion, we need to have cash to be able to pay for those projects as they're completed. So that is another level that we need cash for. Another, for 2 of your utilities, you'll need cash available to pay your principal and interest payments. So those are included as well in this minimum level of cash. And lastly, I like to call it an emergency fund. It's some cash that's available, not necessarily to cover a catastrophic event or an emergency. If you have older infrastructure, you have unplanned outages, and you need to have cash available to get on that right away and get service back in place. So we want to have cash available for that. And so that is also included in this number that we'll look at in our upcoming slides. And we really base that on the age of the infrastructure in the utility. The last target, optimal operating income. So this operating income is the difference between the revenue the utility collects over the year less your expenses. So hopefully there's a positive number there, or you're at an operating loss. But what is that operating income level best to be? Where do we want that to be at least? And we use this would be kind of setting a ceiling on how much our rates should be recovering from our customers. And this helps us identify when and if we should borrow for capital projects, or if we should fund a capital project through rate structures. But this helps set us a ceiling on our rate structures. And what this will cover is the interest expense on any debt in that utility and the replacement cost of assets. So the infrastructure you have in your utilities, they become more costly every year to replace. $1 million asset that you put in the ground 20 years ago, over the 20 years, you've depreciated and recovered that depreciation through the rate structure. But you're left with $1 million, but to replace it, it's $1 million plus the inflation over that 20 years. So we include that inflationary increase on this target to setting that optimal target. So the first utility we're going to take a look at is the electric. And on the top table, you see with no revenue adjustments. The first thing we look at here is debt coverage ratio. We see that is well below our target. We look for, as I mentioned, was 1.4. So issuing debt would be an issue here. If we were to request a bond, they're going to look at this right away. The next thing we see is our operating income is actually operating at a loss, and you see each year with those assumptions in place of increasing the inflationary for your expenses and so on, you see this operating loss continues to grow each year. So we want to do something with our rate structure to address that. Our cash is, now keep in mind, we're looking at a cash balance here that in our assumptions, we had $7 million that we were including coming into the utility for capital projects. So we're good in the first 2 years. We're pretty close to the recommended minimum, but you see we actually end up at a loss of 1.4 million in the outer last year of 2028. So we need to do something with rates to address that as well. Now, to start with, in the beginning of 2024, and this is true for all the utilities, there was an adjustment made to your monthly customer charge, your monthly charges for each utility. They're all at different percentages, but in the electric, it was about an 8.5% increase on your meter charges. So when we're looking at this rate track, this revenue increase that we have at 2% each year, this is assuming in 2024 that a 2% increase would be implemented in July, okay? The following 4 years would be an implementation date of January 1. So with a 2% revenue adjustment in your rates, you see our debt coverage ratio is now above that minimum of 1.4. And we're trying to minimize our customers' bill impacts on on our rate adjustments there. This operating income in year one is still at a loss, but our cash is still in a good position. And that cash allows us to spread the needed adjustment out a little bit further so that we're not having to implement a higher rate adjustment. If we had low cash balances, we would have to have a higher rate adjustment. But here you're able to spread that 2%, over the 5 years, and our operating income is working up towards our optimal target here of 900,000. Again, that's a ceiling. We're working towards it, and our cash is good in the first 2 years, and the third year is a little bit lower, but then we come back and we're pretty close to that recommended minimum level. And as you know, things can change with capital programs over the years. We would recommend that in 2 or 3 years with the number of projects you got going on, that you would take a look just to make sure. We always have you look at your financials to make sure the numbers we're projecting here, that they're kind of working out each year, matching up. So this is the electric utility, 2% each year starting July this year, followed in 2% for the following January 1st implementations. Are there any questions with electric? All right. So now gas, we see a little more green here. Our debt coverage ratio with no rate adjustments in the gas utility, you see we're above the 1.4 in the first 3 years, and then the utility becomes debt-free in 27. So we meet that requirement with no rate adjustment. Our operating income, it is a positive, but you see it is dropping each year. So we want to look at what can we do to maintain or kind of stabilize the operating income so it kind of starts to move the other way a little bit. So we want to do something there. Now cash, you see we're in good shape for the electric utility. Our cash is about 8 million. Our recommended minimum is about 4.5 million. So we're in good shape there on cash with no rate adjustments. Now, with the proposed rate adjustments, in 2026, we have a 1% each year. This would be implemented in January 1 of 26 through 2028. And that you see then our operating income, it's still yellow, but you see we're staying right around that 300,000 position for operating income. And our cash, it grows a little bit, but not. It looks like it's about 500,000. Any questions on the gas rate track? All right. With water, we have a position that our operating, now this is a debt-free utility, so we don't have debt coverage as a, I'm sorry, there is debt coverage, it's in a different spot. Our debt coverage here is in good shape. We're well above 1.0, and that's on the far right side of the table. And I'm going to go back into the middle with the operating income. You see kind of like electric, we're running at a loss, and that operating loss is growing to 630,000 in 2028. So we want to do something with our rates to address that. Our cash position is above the recommended minimum throughout all 5 years, but you can see we're dropping each year. So we're starting at about 4.5 million and ending at around 3 million in 2028. So we want to do something with our rate structures here, primarily on the operating income. If we're operating at a loss, that eats up our cash each year. So with a 2.5% increase, and again, like electric, this we would recommend a 2.5 be implemented in your July billing, and then the outer 4 years would be implemented in January 1st. So the operating income, again, because of our cash position, we're able to spread that rate adjustment out. So the first year, we're still projected to be operating at a loss, but rather than 194,000 in losses, we're at about 33,000. And then in 2025, we get into a positive position at about 50,000, and we get up to about 80,000 in 2028. So with a 2.5%, we're moving our operating income. We have a ways to go to meet the optimal, but again, we're trying to minimize impact on our customers, and we're looking at these 3 targets. You're meeting your debt coverage ratio, your cash is in good position, so we can take our time a little bit more on moving towards that optimal operating income level. Again, any questions with water? All right, so wastewater is the last one on top, again, with no rate adjustments. I'm going way to the far right, the debt coverage ratio. It's a debt-free utility. In the middle, adjusted operating income. We're at a income position the first 2 years, but we then go to a loss in the outer 3 years to where we have a loss of about 130,000 in 2028. So we want to do something with our rate structures to address that. And like water, our cash position in the wastewater, we're in good shape. Keep in mind, this is a minimum recommendation for reserves. You want to be above that number, and that anything above that then makes you more ready and more healthy to address any emergencies. It helps you address, be more stable with the implementation of rate adjustments. If something comes up that you need more cash for something that comes up, you're able to stretch that out because you do have cash. It helps stabilize your rate structures, your utility. So with a 0% rate change, keeping your rates, we are looking to adjust your rate structures. We call it a revenue neutral adjustment in these first 2 years, where we're adjusting your monthly charge a little bit and then the commodity. But the first 2 years, revenue to the utility would be neutral to where you are today. And then in 2026 through 2028, we look to increase our revenue by 3% through rate adjustments. And then that 3%, you see, gets our operating income then to about $100,000 rather than a negative 130. And our cash, we move from about 3.8 million to 4.2. So we're holding the cash position in good shape, and again, with no debt issues. So that is the wastewater summary. Now, what we did is that's the financial analysis. Now, the other part is cost of service, and in cost of service, we look our rate structures fair between the different users and the rate classes that we have in each utility, and then where are those fixed monthly customer charges that that amount is fixed regardless of how much commodity a customer purchases. So overall, and it's pretty similar in each utility, I see that the residential and small commercial customer classes, that they would see a rate adjustment slightly less than the average increase, okay? So when I was on the previous slides, like for wastewater, we were at a 3% in those outer years. We would look at those smaller commercial and residential meters to have something just under 3%. And then the larger commercial and industrial would be something just above it, in a bandwidth around plus or minus 1%. But that's what cost of service kind of showed us in each of the utilities, that the adjustment you made in January this year really helps. It really set your monthly charges to be really at cost of service. We're not far on any of them. So with that, the detail is in those other rate designs, the example rate designs. You can see each component of your rate and how we're recommending and looking at adjusting them each year. But here's a picture on this slide that shows us a residential customer who has all 4 services. How does, all these rate adjustments I just talked about, how does their bill change each year? So their current bill under the structure, the billing rates we have, their bill sums up to be about $225. Under the year 1 recommended rate adjustments, their bill would go up about $2.80. That's a 1.2% increase. So they're seeing a monthly bill increase of about just under $3. Year 2 is about the same thing. Their bill goes from $228 to $231. Then it goes in year 3 to $234. And that's a difference of about $3.70. Year 4 is $3.73, and then year 5, $3.87. So you see those outer 3 years are well below inflationary adjustments that we talked about, being at 1%. So, our customers' bills are being increased at a minimum level that we can to keep each utility healthy. This is a picture of each year, then where that dollar change is coming from. So you see electric, the electric in year 1 amounts to $1.55 increase in that monthly bill. That's followed by about $1 increase in water, and then gas is the 0.23%. And then year 2, 155.91, and then 0.27, and so on. It just kind of breaks it up a little different. I believe everyone has that rate design. If you've had time to review that, or if you have time later to review that and have any questions, you can definitely reach out to me or through Blake, I believe. But that's the conclusion of what I have here this evening to present. Are there any questions on any of the information I walked through?
Again, this is just their recommendations. We'll probably take this up either a call meeting in June or perhaps in the July meeting and kind of get into it a little bit more. Like I said, this is what Dan and his team is sort of recommending, and we're all looking at it at the same time too, and maybe honing that down a little bit. Maybe making a few little changes, but basically following their recommendations, I think. But again, UFS, they kind of specialize in public utilities, and I think they're recognized as probably the best rate analyst across the country. I mean, Dan, y'all do these type things for utilities in every single state, pretty much. Am I correct?
Pretty much. You are correct. And Guam and a number of the Caribbean islands. I don't get to go to those, but Mark does.
Yeah, when we go to these national conferences, a lot of times it's either Dan or Mark that does the presenting courses and different classes on how to conduct rate analysis and that sort of thing. So we were very, very pleased with the level of work that we got out of these guys. I know they put a lot of hours in. You know, it's a 30-minute presentation, but it's taken us several months to get here. So, I mean, they start with going over our financials, going back 3 or 4 years and looking where we are, and then making, like they said, projections on where we'll be in the next 4 to 5 years. So, a lot of work, and Dan, we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the input there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for your time tonight. We'll see you.
Tomorrow or the next day, Dan.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have, unless.
Do I have a motion that we move to executive session?